The coronavirus pandemic has changed the world that we live in. In New Zealand, we went hard and we went early in terms of the lockdown. Basically, we shut down the whole of the New Zealand economy other than essential services for many weeks. What I found fascinating during the lockdown was people got cabin fever. They had to get out. And while we had social distancing, it was fascinating to see the number of people in our streets, in our parks, by the beach, keeping their social distancing, but neighbours and people in the community talking to each other. In other words, we changed from where we went to work and socialised and came home and ignored our neighbours and the community, to where through the lockdown we changed the model to where we then interacted much more with our community and people around us. As a result of that, it has changed the way people interact. Now, if you're in the business of selling a product or service, that's changed the way you'll need to interact with people. There's an old saying, to see what John Brown buys, you need to see through John Brown's eyes. What does this mean? Well, it means basically if you've got a sales process and you run that in isolation away from the customer, you're not going to get a good result for you or for them in terms of the outcome. Whereas if you take the time to understand their buying process, then you will work with that. Now, a customer starts off with not aware about a need for one of your products or services. So while you may have an initial opportunity talking to them about this, there might be a greater opportunity talking about some other products or services. So when you take the time to understand what their buying process is, starting with not aware and then aware and looking for a solution, then you've got a much better chance of creating the right outcome for you, for them, but more importantly, not only have you sold products or services, but you have added value to the world today, tomorrow, and out into the future. And of course, that means they become an advocate, and the advocate is the best sort of salesperson you can have. They'll always outsell you. People buy from people, always have. But now there's much more emphasis on the relationship side. If you're still going to stick with your product feature benefit, then you may struggle because the buyer or the customer is looking for more of a relationship type interaction. And when we say a relationship interaction, it's not about being liked or being a likable person as a salesperson, because that comes across sometimes as smimey. It's more of a matter of you'll work with them, and once you've got significant knowledge of their buying process, you'll work with them as they go through their buying process. So the relationship is interdependent between the two of you, and because you now understand their buying process, you can take them on the journey. When I moved into sales, I had the traditional sales training, being trained in product feature benefit, which was fine. But I realised there must be more to it, because if there's a buyer and a seller, it's not about a sales process, it's about a buying process or a buying steps that the customer will go through. So I took the time to understand the psychology of customer transition. In other words, what are the steps a buyer will go through? When I started to use that in sales, I became very successful, well above budgets regularly. When I started to train other companies in that, or other individuals in that, then it wasn't by accident, it was by design. They became very successful. When the lockdown came along, all of that work stopped. So I took the time to write that knowledge into a book called Revolutionise the Way You Sell and Influence People. And that's available in hard copy on our website, hugheshill.co.nz, or as an ebook from Amazon.